Hello, everybody. We are live here with Joshua Allgood, and we are on the, continuation of the second part, but now it is the day after. So, Joshua Allgood, please tell us about your experience.
Oh, my experience. Oh, holy crap. That was insane. Yeah, so I drank an entire cup full of San Pedro brew. It was quite cloudy because we extracted a lot of the phenethylamines in the cactus, so it was just floating in there and all sunk to the bottom of the cup. I drank it all. It was very bitter, but I'm used to the bitterness now at this point, so it wasn't as unbearable as it was the first time because I expected it. And what was weird was that I started to notice the subtle comp effects, like, not even when I was done drinking the cup. Because the first thing I noticed when I'm on mescaline is I get some visual snow. I get some weird black stuff over my vision. And I started noticing that, like, when I was almost done with it. And I still had, like, another disgusting sip of that San Pedro Ectacooler. So after that, I just went upstairs to work on some grad school research because it'll take about a total of 3 hours before like the trip really begins. But even then, it's like the come-up effects are getting pretty intense, you know. I was noticing some very subtle motion blur stuff, but I did see some pretty weird open-eye visuals on the wall when I was working. I was seeing like images of like the Tower of Babel forming, and I'm thinking like, wait, what the hell does that mean? And I know that I know you were like freestyling the other room while I was trying to work on this project, and there was some other stuff that happened as well. You know,
I just wanted to pause really quick. I was freestyling about the Tower of Babel, and this dude's seeing like imagery of it in the other room during the same time I was speaking my raps and spitting my rhymes. So that shows, consciousness is beyond us, especially when you connect your consciousness for like raising your frequencies with psychedelics.
Right.
And you linked in together. So I feel consciousness is beyond the body. It's more of like a collective hive thing willing to be tapped into.
Especially since I didn't really hear what you're rapping about the Tower of Babel because I put on some Boards of Canada through my headphones.
Mm.
Because that's a fun band to listen to when you're on psychedelics. Some chill electronica. I played music as math once while on shrooms. That was a spiritual experience in its own right, but that's for another day.
Most definitely.
So I was working around, I was noticing the thing of Elvis. You know, that giant statue of Elvis that was from my grandfather's house. And it started to telepathically communicate with me in that Elvis voice. It was the first of the, transfigurations and incantations of sorts that have occurred through this experience. And he just does, I don't know, we just had like some small talk. I basically had a conversation with him about why the hell did you give Richard Nixon a gun? He's like, because I want to. I want to get the DEA badge, it looks so cool.
Boy had a one-on-one interview with Pelvis Wrestling himself.
Pelvis Wrestling himself, that was crazy. And then, while during the comp, I was watching some videos by James Hoffman, who's this coffee YouTuber. He's like a big British coffee snob who's like, reviews all the fancy espresso, things. And then I started seeing like coffee beans kind of pop up on the wall and stuff, and weird things like that. And then just some other minor visuals of just like the weird like sort of textures and things. It's like, it's almost acid-like, but not as like pronounced as cartoonish. They're a bit more in the background and like outlined and like everything is, it's less like glowing like synthetically solid things and more like some non-Newtonian fluid as in regards to like the floatiness. And I'm still getting some weird traces right now. I'm still feeling the after effects quite a lot after the trip. It feels mostly right now just like the come up of the experience.
I just wanted to ask, just really quick before the camera battery gets too low. Tell us about the spirits that you met, like the spirit of the wakefulness, the spirit of the knowledge. It's up to you to describe it.
All right. Okay. Let's get into like where the trip really begins. It was like after seeing some weird visuals, decided to smoke some cannabis, mostly just to kind of make the visuals more prominent on mescaline, because mescaline visuals tend to be a bit more subdued compared to like DMT, LSD, or psilocybin visuals. So sometimes it's best to have like a little booster upper. But when that happened, that was when like all the spirits started coming. My first thing I started getting visited by like these Navajo Indian guys, with joy. They're just like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I'm like, "Who are you?" "No, we're just you. We're just here, just giving you on your journey." I'm like, "Oh my God, really? What are you doing?" It's like, give you a heads up. And then I went into the kitchen and I was trying to make food, but then like I was just seeing like weird things on the counter. I saw a little bird and it started chirping to me in my brain. It was like I saw it in my brain, automatically just made a bird noise. I'm like, did I just automatically think that? That wasn't conscious. It just happened. That is weird. I got visited by the Fat Life demons, which are basically just these fat old people who just like to fuck all the time on the ceiling. They make sex the most unappealing thing ever. And make you think, maybe the whole swinger thing is not cut out for me because they're all just old people and I'm a young guy. So I want to do young people things and not get around some old ugly people. And then of course there's the whole coffee thing. And you mentioned before the spirit of wakefulness. That spirit of wakefulness happens to be James Hoffman himself. He comes to me in his British voice. He's like, "Well, I'm going to teach you everything about coffee." It's like, "What are you doing here?" "I'm going to teach you about coffee." So, they're in caffeine. It's like, "Are you here trying to tell me to drink coffee?" I was like, "It's a bit too late for that, isn't it? Quite stimulating right now. But just think about it. Here's a coffee bean. This coffee bean looks like a vagina." Okay. That's happened to me a lot, by the way. The vagina coffee.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Some
I
metaphorical
talked to our
wakefulness.
old buddy Pedro for a moment. He didn't speak too much to me throughout this trip. He wasn't as talkative around. And he was a little depressed after getting all of his limbs hacked off. But, I understood him, and he was sympathetic to our needs. And he gave me some really good wisdom on, like, the cactus life. And says that succulents lack the egos of mammals and weeds. If that makes sense to anyone at all. But
So he's saying he's kind of like a superior being because instead of being needy and focusing on life and hedonistic pleasures, he's more focused on just survival and the simple things.
Exactly.
I see. That
It
makes
was
sense.
a very profound experience. Then I got visited by... so I decided to go and make some dinner. I made that fantastic burger where I became possessed by like this character persona that I just made up with at the moment, where I did this whole thing as a French chef. But now it's funny, is that character is kind of stuck with my mind throughout the whole trip. It's just like, "It's how you do the quality excellence," and he would argue with Gordon Ramsay.
It's beautiful.
And then after I made the food, I decided to work on some more research upstairs. And then a very similar thing happened to me like on the first mescaline trip, where I got visited by a spirit sent by Dr. Fern. And I got visited by another spirit, but except he was of a different form. And he had a different and he had... Instead of him being a representation of the Egyptian god Thoth, he was a sphere with like 8 triangular tentacle robotic arms coming out of the top. It's much more abstract. not humanoid in the slightest. He's basically just telling me, all right, I'm just here to just kind of get you through like the tips from like the email Dr. Fern sent you. All right, just copy this thing right here, paste this thing. It's like, okay, thanks. It's like, no problem. Dips.
The camera's about to die, so one last spiritual being I want to go over. Tell us about his blessed perfect roundness.
Oh yes, the Tonpils himself. No. There's the Tonpils, which is of course is peace, knowledge and wisdom, which is a trifecta. Which yes, the being that I saw from the first one now can speak to me. But then there's also the cylinder, the roundness. Remember the Tower of Babel I mentioned earlier? That is just the roundness, just warping and turning into different forms. And in different, sometimes it's a cone, sometimes it's like a weird funnel thing, sometimes it's but in its purest form, it's just a cylinder. It's very standoffish, quite introverted. Very, doesn't want to be talked much to. Very angry, doesn't like being provoked. So I just let him be. But the last being I want to talk about is my favorite one, the Librarian of the Universe.
Oh.
I will make this brief because the camera's about to die. But he showed me his library. He destroyed my ego, and he formed it until like my body was just like a weird sort of like silly putty in like a pyramid. That was me. I'm imagining myself. Wait, is that me? Is this consciousness? Is this reality? And then he appears to me in like this old man form with his beard and like his face, and he's just like, "Welcome to the library. How was your research today?" I'm like, "Oh, good. I just did this," and then I start talking to myself. That's when myself came back. And then he was just gave me some wisdom and advice on like the nature of imagination and thinking and of the mind. Not in a way like how LSD does, where you're just thinking about something. If then you just come to this weird conclusion, which is just like, what the fuck? It's more like I'm interacting with this. It's giving me things and I'm having like a conversation. It's a dialectic of sorts. And then we're talking about like, what books should I read? It's like, I don't know. I'm like thinking, maybe I should read this one philosophy book. It's like, that's a good start.
Good start.
That's a very good start.
All right, Josh, I'm sorry to give you the llama hand, but I appreciate your time, sir.
All right, thank you. Yeah, there's some weird stuff too. I did actually see some sexy, hot beings, not just ugly people later on. So
that's based.
So that made up for like seeing the old people fuck.
Well, thank you, Josh.
At this point, I was just kind of thinking in my mind,
And
thank you, God, even though I don't believe in one, like literally.